Hello and welcome back to Loch Ness Living and to the first Aural Textiles blog of the second stage called Distributed Capabilities. So the second stage of the project is introduce some new collaborators, mainly from outside the field of textiles. So we've got some ceramic artists, some jewellery makers and furniture makers, and they've been paired with participants from the original grouping. So a few weeks ago, I met up with Carol Sinclair from Carol Sinclair Ceramics, and she's going to be my partner for the second stage of the projects. And we had a brief discussion, 4 cups of tea, 1 piece of cake later, to explore our ideas for collaboration. And we looked at what was the inspiration for my work in the first stage of the project, which was about sounds from nature. These were recorded in the woodlands around Loch Ness. It's a beautiful spot where I live here in Drumnadrochit. And my aim was to bring an experience of sound together with my knitting work in order to create an alternative sensory experience. So a way to experience the woodland and the beautiful landscape here without being able to hear it. And this was based very much on my own journey of hearing loss, which is ongoing, and my desire to preserve for the future an experience which I absolutely love. But in this stage, I'm keen to explore sounds made by people, and this is because I'm really passionate about working with sustainable materials, and I have daily conversations promoting this approach. Earlier this year, I took part in a project with Creative Scotland called Go See Share, and I went over to the Netherlands to meet some people who are working in sustainable textiles innovations over there to do with dyeing and the resources involved in dyeing, the resources involved in reclaiming textiles and reusing them and recycling them. And it was a real eye-opener in terms of the possibilities of innovation and sustainability in textiles, but also the challenges that face producers and ultimately the consumers who have to decide what's happening with the things that they buy and take home. So there was no doubt in my mind after that visit that the wider campaigns that you may be aware of, things like Fashion for Good and Fashion Revolution in the UK, require significant change in both the production and the consumption process of textiles. And when you take these things on board, it's pretty much a constant kind of challenge in that conversation to understand your role as an individual within this huge process of what is a global climate crisis. And personally, I think it's quite easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of that challenge, but it's impossible to remain ignorant of it. And living here in Drumnadrochit, I'm surrounded by a beautiful landscape that has faced so much change and geological change from the glacial formation of the Glen and the Great Glen Fault that we live on. The first human settlers we have here going back to the Bronze Age, changes in the village and the population from the clearances to the impact of 2 world wars. And I wonder sometimes when I reflect on that whether the people, particularly in more recent times, were aware of their place within the bigger picture. And nowadays I see a similar experience as we're into something that's called the Anthropocene, it's being titled, and the impact of the human epoch on man. And there's a wonderful documentary, it's a Canadian documentary called The Anthropocene, which is a great introduction to this bigger picture and your place in the bigger picture. And that's my starting point for distributed capabilities, sounds made by man that can help relate what we do individually as a small process textiles producer to this bigger picture. Where's that bridge, and can a translation and an exploration of sound be a part of that bigger conversation which is so important to have. And what came up in the discussion with Carol was very much how sounds of a human origin relate strongly to memory and to reminiscence work. And that was fascinating to me because conversations in reminiscence and memory are actually really important to conservation and sustainability, because one of the really significant things is that human memory being short and just limited to one generation means that the really long-term picture about things like insect populations, wildlife diversity, floral diversity, it's lost because people adjust very quickly to the new normal. And so memory is a really important conservation and the value of looking after the environment, and reminiscence work is an important part of capturing and maintaining that memory for the next generation. So beginning to kind of explore with Carol how that could be put together as a conversation piece through our work, mine in textiles and knitting and Carol's work in ceramics, made us think about how layers of sound might work together to create an experience and a memory. And one of the things we were talking about is how, for example, a night out has a layer of sound, or a soundscape as we were calling it. So you have something like the hum of the crowd in the background. You might also hear some music, maybe a bass line of something. And then you would have the conversation and perhaps the laughter of friends close by. So there were various different kind of sounds making up that picture, making up that memory, and then making up that reminiscence. And since we had that conversation, I've been reflecting on my memories of sound and a soundscape, and one of the most memorable soundscapes for me is festivals. We've had some lovely weather here in the last few weeks in Drumnadrochit. It's kind of summery weather, and it's a kind of feeling that you want to spend time outside, listen to some music, and it really reminded me of festival experiences. And I've been to some lovely festivals, Chagstock in particular, that takes place down in Devon once a year. It's about to take place in mid-July. So it's a lovely small festival to go to. And I was looking for something close by to explore some festival kind of recording, a multiple kind of sensory sound experience recording. And I was fortunate enough to go to Xpo North last week and have 2 days of attending Xpo North with all of the seminars and workshops and kind of presentations that were going on there, and some brilliant music. So the first recording artist for the reception was Keir Gibson. He's a local artist from Fort William. It's got a lovely mixture of kind of trad sound with a very modern and energetic vibe to it. So I recorded some sounds from his session to again get that feeling of the opening night of an event, with the music, the hum of the crowd, the response to the music. And then on the second night of Xpo North, I recorded the group White, WHYTE, and they are a really interesting kind of Gallic electric infusion of music. And it's something that I think was really interesting to record, because not only is the music itself with the Gallic content and then the electro kind of pop mixture going on, so that in itself is absolutely fascinating, but because most members of the audience weren't familiar with Gaelic, they're not Gaelic speakers, there is a moment of kind of recognition, a moment of translation taking place there, and for some people just a pure connection with the music that takes place because they do not speak the language. And so that's just something really fascinating to record and try and capture in a soundscape, not just the musical recording, but the response and the atmosphere, and how does that translate to a sound recording. So those are my first couple of recordings with Carol to try and explore a soundscape as part of a bigger conversation and a thought-provoking piece, so that people can really interact with something and experience something in a different way, and maybe create that bridge to some larger conversations around things like sustainability in textiles production. So please check out the Aural Textiles and Distributed Capabilities blog page for more posts by the other participants who are involved. And of course, go and have a listen to Kia Gibson and to White, so you can hear the full tracks from both of those artists, who are absolutely fantastic. Thank you.